Vimru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Ve'lam Almei Almaya. Yitbarach Vishtabach Vitpa'al Vitramam Vitnasei. Vitada Vitale Vitalal Shmei Dukutsha Berechu. Leila Min Kol Berchata Vishirata. Tishbachata V'nechemata. Ta'amiram Ve'ama Vimru Amen. Yehi Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'akol Yisrael Vimru Amen. V'aseh shalom b'mamav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen.
Good morning, everyone. And can we just turn off the echo, please? Okay, excellent. So in our second Mishnah, in the third chapter of Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Hanina, the assistant Kohen Gadol, said, "Pray for the welfare of the government, for without the fear of it, men would swallow one another alive." This Mishnah follows closely on the previous Mishnah from Akavia ben Mahalel, who said, "Know where you're coming from, know where you're going to, and know before whom you're going to have to give din v'cheshbon, an accounting for yourself." And that is the way in which a person can avoid sin. So Akavia ben Mahalel has offered us a way of controlling our behavior from inside. The best policeman in the world is the one that's inside you, and that is optimum. If you can do that, that is fantastic. But Rabbi Hanina observes that for the average person, external controls exercised by the police power of the state are necessary for us in order to be able to keep social virtues. And so, in fact, you need both. You need to do that which you can do from within yourself to control your own behavior, but at the same time, there needs to be an outside force that imposed from the outside that helps to maintain the behavior of the state in overall terms. And in fact, Rabbi Hanina over here is building upon something which Jeremiah himself had said much earlier than that. Jeremiah, the prophet, of course, who went into exile in Babylon together with the people after the destruction of the first temple. He had seen the ravages, the effects of the ravages of war that were perpetrated by an enemy. He had seen the total collapse of society, and therefore he said, "Seek the welfare of the city to which I have banished you, and pray on its behalf to the Lord, for in its welfare you will fare well." In other words, speaking in the name of God, Jeremiah teaches the people that the only possible and proper orientation for the Jew in exile is to be loyal to the host nation. And as a matter of fact, the Talmud says that the Almighty compelled the people of Israel to give an oath that they would not rise in armed revolt against the nations among whom they would live. And that is the basis of the fact that we have this extraordinary and important halakha that in relation to all civil matters, as opposed to spiritual matters of, say, kashrut or Shabbat, but in civil matters, in matters of the way in which society has to function, dina de malchuta, dina, the law of the land becomes your land, your law, that we actually have to subjugate ourselves to the law of the land in matters relating to the conduct of society, civil law. And this has huge, wide implications in many, many areas of Jewish practice in which we accept the law of the land as being our law as well. And that is part of this concept over here, that a Jew has to be loyal to the country in which, the host country in which he finds himself in exile, and that this is necessary for the stability of society. And that there has to be an acknowledgement that without a functioning government that has control of the people, there is going to be chaos and leading to complete and total breakdown of society, breakdown of values, etc. And that is the important concept that Rabbi Hanina wants to offer to us. And we'll see some extraordinary examples of the way in which the sages observe this as we continue through with the explanation of this Mishnah. Rabbi Hanani ben Akasha, may Ratza Kodesh Baruch Hu L'Zach Yisrael Lefichach, Hier Beim Kamitzvah, Shneimar Nechafetz Man Tzidko, Yagdim Tov Yadeh.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Shkoyach. Erev Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Johnny. It's still a
Good
couple of
morning.
minutes.
Morning.
Do you want to wait a couple of minutes to see if anyone else is going to join? Good morning. Shabbat Shalom, Paul.
What we normally do is we crack on with it, and
Yes.
then people join in as they.
Okay. All right.
I think, Peter, it's not 8 o'clock yet. Just give them a couple of,
I agree. Yes.
we can
Yes,
start
the
at
morning
8
minute seems to be getting faster.
every day.
We do sometimes discuss whether or not the online service has had its day,
Yes.
and then every time we think, well, maybe it hasn't, suddenly hundreds of people join in. So it's
Here's Karen. Good morning.
Morning.
we need guidance really about we enjoy doing it, but
I did think along your lines at an earlier stage, and to think, well, it's had its day and it's time to end it, because you've seen that the numbers have shrunk and we've come down to a very small core of people. Possibly Loretta will come back, join us again when she comes back from America, but it's a small core. But my thinking is that if you do enjoy it, it doesn't need more than one or two people to be on in order to be able to do the service together. And if it works for you, and if it's something which has become an important part of your life in terms of a nice way to start the day, in the sense that you are participating in prayer, then there's no reason to stop it. We just continue with it. I don't know what is anybody feeling tired of this? They've had enough, that they would like it to end, or do you want it to continue? You tell me.
I like it's there. And for me, I also like to hear your drosha, the morning thought. It always stimulates something in your mind, and it keeps you thinking. So those 4 or 5 minutes for me is a great thing.
Yeah.
And you learn and you follow things, and if we haven't got the knowledge, this adds all the time.
Well, so long as people, want to, nobody should feel obligated. Nobody should feel under pressure. Nobody should feel they have a special, obligation to keep this going because the numbers are small now. It's a voluntary exercise if people find it useful and like it, and find it, as I say, a nice way to start the morning whenever they can attend. Then there's no reason to stop it. This is not something which depends upon numbers. Yeah? Even if you're there on your own, you can look at the screen and daven. It's not a big deal. Okay, let's start today. So Doris, would you start with Baruch Shema for us, please?
ברוך שאמר והיה העולם ברוך הוא, ברוך עושה בראשית, ברוך אומר ועושה, ברוך גוזר ומקיים, ברוך מרחם על הארץ, ברוך מרחם על הבריות, ברוך משלם שכר טוב לרעב, ברוך חי ליד וקיה לנצח, ברוך פודה ומציל, ברוך שמו. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, האל האב הרחמן, המהולל בפי עמו, משובח ומפואר בלשון חסידיו ועבדיו, ובשירי דוד עבדך, נהללך, אדוני אלוהינו, בשבחות ובזמירות, נגדלך ונשבחך ונפארך ונזכיר שמך, ונמליכך מלכנו אלוהינו, יחיד אדוני האלוהים העולמים, מלך משובח ומפואר עד שמו הגדול. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מהולל בתשבחות.
Karen, Ashrei, please.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Hallelujah Selah. Ashrei Ha'am Shechacha Lo, Ashrei Ha'am She'adonai Elohav. Tehillah David. Aramimcha Elohai HaMelech, Va'avaracha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed. V'chol Yom Avarachecha V'halalel Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed. Gadol Adonai Umhulal Ma'od V'ligdulato Ein Cheker. Do Lado Yeshabach Ma'asecha V'gvuratecha Yagidu. Hadar Kavod Hodecha V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha. Ve'ezuz Noratecha Yameru Ugdulataka Asaprana Zekerav Tuvacha Yabiu Sidikatka Yaranenu Chanun Varachum Adonai Erech Apayim Ugdol Chased Tov Adonai Lechol Varachamav Al Kol Ma'asav Yuducha Adonai Kol Ma'asecha V'chasidecha Yivarachucha Kavod Malchutaka Yomeru Ugvuratacha Yadaberu Lahudia Livnei Ha'adam Gvuratav Uchvod Hadar Malchuto Malchutaka Malchut Kol Olamim Umimshaltacha B'Kol Do V'Do Somech Adonai Lechol Hanoflim V'Zochef Lechol Ha'Fufim Einei Chol Eilecha Yeseveru V'Ata Noten Lahem Et Ochlam Be'ito Potecha Et Pateach Et Yadecha Umatzbia Lechol Chai Ratzon Sadik Adonai B'Chol Derachav V'Chasid B'Chol Ma'asav Karav Adonai Lechol Kara'av Lechol Asher Yikra'uhu Ve'emet Ratzon Yera'av Ya'aseh Ve'et Shavatam Yishma Yobiyoshiem Shomeh Adonai Et Kol Ohavav Ve'et Kol Hasha'im Yashmid Tehillat Adonai Yedaber Pi Vivorech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed V'anachnu Nevarech Ya Me'etov Yad Olam. Hallelujah.
Thank you. And Peter Yishtabach, please.
Yishtabach Shem Kol Yad Malkeinu Hoel HaMelech HaGadol VeHaKadosh V'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Ki Lechol Noah Adonai Lecheinu V'Lechei Avosenu Shir Ushvachor Chalel V'Zimro Oz Shelo Netzach Gedula Ukvara Tehillah V'Sif Eres Kedusha U'Malchus V'Rachos V'Hadar Os Me'atov Yad Olam Baruch Atah Adonai El Melech Gadol B'Tishbachos El Ha'adar Os Adon Haniflaos Habalcheh B'Shrei Zimro Melech Elchei Cholamim.
Thank you. That was perfect. And Johnny, would you take us through the morning blessing and the Shema, please? And Tzu Yisrael.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uverei choshech oseh shalom uverei et hakol. El melech ne'eman Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol mo'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha v'aderech u'v'shachbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshatam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu lo tatafot b'eineinecha u'chtavtam al mezot beitecha u'v'sharecha v'haya im shemoya tishmeu el mitzvotai asher anochi metzaveh etchem hayom La'ava et Adonai Elohechem, u'la'avdo b'chol lavachem u'b'chol nafshechem. V'natati matar atzechem bi'ito, yoreu makosh. V'asafta deganecha, v'tiroshecha v'yitzarecha. ונתתי עשב בשדך לבנתך, ואכלת ושבעת, הישמרו לכם, פן יפתה לבבכם, ושרתם ועבדתם אלוהים אחרים, והשתחוויתם להם. וקרא אף אדוני בכם, ועצה את השמיים, ולא יהיה מטר, והאדמה לא תיתן את יבולה, ועברתם מהרה מעל הארץ הטובה, אשר אדוני נותן לכם. ושמתם את דברי אלה על לבבכם ועל נפשכם, וקשרתם אותם לאות על ידכם, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם, ולימדתם אותם, את בניכם לדבר בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשכבך ובקומך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען ייבאו ימיכם וימי בניכם על האדמה, אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיכם לתת להם כימי השמיים על הארץ. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר על בני ישראל, ועמדת עליהם ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תתרו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Then I'll go to phones. Tzu Yisrael Kumar Be'ezrat Yisrael Uvdei Kinu Mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael Go'aleinu Adonai Tzavaot Shemo Kadosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Lawrence, Elenu, please.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו ככם, וגורלנו ככל המנום. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינה וזו בגובכי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. אמת מלכנו, אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום להשבותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים. השמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. על כן נקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו, לראות מהרה בתפארת עוזך, לך אוויר גילולים מן הארץ, והאלילים קורות יקרתון, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי, וכל בני בשר יקראו בשמך, לכפנות אליך כל ראשי ארץ, יכירו וידעו כל יושבי תבל, כי לך תכרע כל ברך. תשבע כל לשון, לפניך אדוני אלוהינו, יקראו ויפולו, ולכבוד שמך יקר ייתנו, ויקבלו כולם את עול מלכותך, ותמלוך עליכם מהרה לעולם ועד, כי המלכות שלך היא ולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, היום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
And the psalm for the day, please.
היום יום שישי בשבת, שבו היו הלוויים אומרים במקדש, אדוני מלך גאות לבש, לבש אדוני עוז כי תעזור, אף תיכון תבל בל תימות.
Thank you. Excellent. Anyone have anything that they want to raise by way of discussion today? Anything in particular? Not? And if that's the case, we can.
Could I share just a couple of
Yes.
personal things?
Yes.
One, my big event this week was I had my hair cut. Most people don't believe I do have my hair cut.
Me also.
Can I just tell you, interrupt you for a moment, that my father had a wonderful sense of humor and was bald. Once walked into a barber shop and you had all these pictures up, of these fantastic, young men with this Elvis haircuts and things like that. Anyway, the Beatles were very popular at the time. And he pointed to a picture of one of the Beatles and he said he wants to have a haircut like that, please. So the barber says to him, how do you intend to do that, sir? He says, well, I'm going to grow my eyebrows and comb them backwards. Carry on, Peter.
You can see Peter and I go to the same barber.
It
He does a terrific job.
put me in mind of the requirement to not barb your beard or barb your beard, and whether or not the gentlemen anyway on this call should grow beards or not. So that was my stupid thought. The other thought I wanted to add is, I don't know about everyone else, but my body is gradually deteriorating. And
this is a real morning of confessions, isn't it?
two weeks ago, I got hearing aids,
Yes.
which are quite good. They haven't given me the improvement I was really hoping for. But what it does mean is when Heather says dinner is ready, I actually hear that now. But my main topic was whether or not we should grow beards and what it means to barb them.
So, you know, the two elderly gentlemen sitting in an old age home, and the one says to the other, says, he says, I used to be completely and totally deaf. He said, but he says, my son, the ENT specialist, he did me a wonderful thing. He said, he made for me these incredible, wonderful things I put in my ear. He says, and now I want to tell you, he says, if a pin drops, it's like a clap from thunder. It's a clap of thunder. He says, and my son, the ENT specialist, he says, he lives 3 miles away. He says, and now, he says, when he gets into his car and he closes the car door, he says, I can hear it. So his friend says to him, he says, that's really wonderful. He says, how long have you had these hearing aids? He says, 10:30.
You don't have anything in your calendar at 10:30. Just tell me if you'd like me to create it.
Did you? Yes, Siri.
The event is scheduled for today from 10:30 to 11:30.
Siri is just wonderful. That's the joke of the day. That's what Siri thinks. I don't have anything in my calendar because I didn't tell Siri what I have in my calendar at 10:30. The main requirement for men, which many men don't actually realize, is not to cut off your peyot, the payers, the corners of your beard. The corner of your beard is actually essentially not to cut your hair here at the temple. When I say not to cut it with a razor so that you're completely, so there's no hair there. That's the essential mitzvah of a payer. And then in relation to a beard, a non-Jewish priest is called a galach. You ever heard the expression galach? The word galach means shaven, because priests would always be shaven and Jews always had beards. The essential prohibition is actually about cutting, shaving with a razor, with a close razor, destroying the hair. But any other form of shaving, say an electric razor, which is effectively a scissor effect. So any kind of scissor is permitted. So men who want to be halachically observant will normally shave will not have a close shave with a razor. The question of not cutting your beard at all, which is what I haven't as you know, I haven't shaved my beard, cut my beard from the first time I went into a private audience with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. That's already more mystical. That's about the holiness of the beard and things like that. But that's not core halacha. Core halacha is when the Torah says that you're not allowed to cut the corners of your beard. It's referring to an act of destruction, which is normally considered to be, a scalpel or a wet shave, proper razor, etc. But any form of electric razor is absolutely fine. But you see many people, even people who are quite observant, who will actually have cut over here. It's just about keeping it down up to that level over there. That's the essential mitzvah of peyot. And of course, beautifying the mitzvah of peyot is when when they start with all this, the ringlets, etc. That is taking the mitzvah of peyah and beautifying it, making a fuss about it, which became very popular amongst the Polish, the Polish and Hungarian Hasidim. Some do peyot. If you look at Gera Hasidim, by the way, they never cut the hair that grows from their tims. Instead, what they do is a bit like Sikhs, they put it under their yarmulke. So you'll see a Gerach Chassid always has a very big yarmulke, and that's because it's got all his peyot kind of like tucked away under it. Weird customs that we Jews have. In Chabad, they never made a fuss about it. We never grew peyot. We didn't see Chabad. In fact, it became something of a problem for some young men who grew up in families in Israel where they had a tradition in the family generationally of peyot, etc. And as young men, they became attracted to Chabad, and they went to New York, 770, and they saw all of the other young men over there. Obviously, hadn't shaven over here, but they weren't growing peyot, and there was this big, they would start to cut off their peyot because they felt that, it's peer pressure. And then they come back home again, and their parents would be very upset. Why have you undermined the tradition of the family? So it's always about tradition and modernity, I suppose. Yeah. Does that answer the question for you, Peter?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I have a very non-PC joke about the Irishman who used to wear a condom over his head because he didn't want to get hearing aids. Apologies.
You need to do teshuva for that one.
Pardon?
I said you need to do teshuva for that one. Not because it was improper, it was just bad.
I like that.
All right, everyone. I wish you all Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
And just one thing that it just reminded that I can't come on Monday because I'm going to take my car in for servicing at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Why?
I
Thanks, Karen. I know that you're with us whenever you can.
Yes, I'll be on here today. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.